Good morning, everyone. This is Grandpa Red Pill. Figured I'd come in for a visit and fill you in on the latest. As most of you know, if you've watched my previous videos, my grandson just turned 13, which means in the state of New Jersey, he's permitted to open up a savings and a checking account. So I took him to the credit union. First I had to make an appointment because of all the COVID restrictions. We had to sit on our hands and wait for a week and a half. And then we went in yesterday morning at 10 o'clock, sat down with the paperwork, copy of his birth certificate, and his social security number, and the bank clerk went through the process, and he got his account with both a savings and checking and a debit card. Now, he was like, he had to pick a PIN number. So he wasn't sure. He was going to use a birthday, and I told him never use a birthday. Never use a holiday. Never use an anniversary. I said, if you had a 10-sided die, I would tell you to roll it 4 times. But we don't have a 10-sided die. So he thought about it for a while, and he came up with a fairly obscure number. And I said, at any given time, you can change this PIN number. I said, but when you do, I want to know. Because I'm the secondary person on this account, because I'm his grandfather, and he's underage. So I have his account number, the routing number, his PIN number. The only thing I don't have is his card number, which I think I'll get from him today. But there was a couple of things I noticed. When he went to sign his paperwork, he doesn't have a cursive signature. He doesn't know how to write in cursive. This is surprising. My daughter told me they stopped teaching cursive in school quite a few years ago because they deem it no longer necessary. Well, I told him, you have to learn how to write in cursive if for any other reason. For your signature, you need a signature, an initial, and sometime in the future, a glyph that you can use to put on official contracts. So he wrote everything, printed his signature. So I have to sit down with him and have him start practicing. Which means I gotta look online and see if I can find the old paper where you had the line, the dotted line, and then the other line. So you can write practice with your capital letters and with your small letters. But the first thing I gotta make sure he knows how to do is sign his name. And I'm gonna write it in cursive, and then I'm gonna have him practice it. And that means writing out his full name, first, middle, and last. So if he has to sign something, he can give him the full John Hancock. The other thing I think is important, why you should know how to write and read in cursive, is because the Constitution of the United States is written in cursive. Many old log books are written in cursive. It's faster to write in cursive than it is to print. And you can get a neater result. So that was one of the things I noticed. I didn't like that at all. Our educational system in this country is really going down the toilet. They want kids to hate each other based on the color of their skin, but they don't want them to know how to write their names in cursive. I don't know what drugs these teachers are on, but I wish they would share them. That's just a joke. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it is. Anyhow, he got his account. His mother's happy. And he has a sense of accomplishment, believe it or not. And now it's up to him. Now I'll watch over his shoulder. And I told him I fully expect a certain percentage of his allowance to go directly into his savings. And I don't want to see him blowing money like a drunken sailor. So we'll see what happens. And then while we were talking about his account over breakfast, because I took him out for breakfast afterwards, it was early enough in the morning. We stopped at a local diner, ordered something decent to eat, and sat there and talked about a few things. I asked him if he understood what was going on economically with inflation. He said he heard some things about it, but he didn't quite grasp what was going on. And I told him because they expanded the money supply, the M1, as they call it, but did not expand the economy. In other words, didn't introduce or bring back more goods and services, because let's face it, between the shipping crisis and the trucking crisis and the supply chain crisis, we have too much money chasing after too few goods. And this is the surefire formula to foster and encourage inflation. And I sat down and explained all this to him. Now, I have a philosophy when I'm talking to my grandson. I always say, if I'm ever pouring too much water into the teacup, just let me know. In other words, I start explaining things to him, and it's too much information in too short of a time, and he can't grasp it. These are concepts that he's never been introduced to before. So when I asked him, he says, no, keep explaining, I'm okay. So I went on and I explained to him that with too much money and too few goods and services, supply and demand, the law of supply and demand takes over. Not enough supply, too much demand, which means that people will pay more for fewer goods. Hence, inflation. The currency is being inflated, and this is not a good thing. For instance, I did tell him that the current inflation rate for the year is running, for 2021, is running approximately 6% so far. They keep telling us in Washington that this is transitory, but I don't believe it. So I told them, my union just negotiated for a contract before this shit hit the fan, and I got a 3% raise. Now, I got a 3% raise, and there's 6% inflation. Do the math. And he looked at me and said, "You lost 3%? I said, "Yes, I did. I've lost 3% of my buying power because inflation." So I explained to him, the only people who are going to make out during this are those with tangible assets. I said, I own the house. All right, I'm still paying on a mortgage, but I own the house. Okay? The value of the home will be inflated along with the money. So I'll have some protection against the current inflation rate. I said I also own some precious metals. In fact, I've been a silver stacker for years. And I'm about to step up my purchases of silver because, of course, they're selling paper silver certificates, these banks and these investment houses. But I don't believe in buying paper silver. If I'm going to buy silver, I want to take physical delivery, put it in the safety deposit box, and have done with it. If things really get bad, I'll just bury it. But the people who are going to survive and thrive during this inflationary cycle are those who own tangible assets. Those who just have money in the bank or who are working from paycheck to paycheck are not. They are going to lose. And he said, that's not fair. And I went, of course it's not fair, but who said life is fair? By what ruler do you measure fairness? You take the entire universe, grind it up to the finest powder there is. Tell me where you find 1 gram of fairness. He didn't know what to say. I said, that's because there is none. Fairness is a human concept. And not all humans share that concept with each other. Fairness is what friends do to keep their friends from fighting amongst each other. Fairness is what I do with his mother and his aunt and how I treat them. That's fairness. So, he gets it. So now he's asking about silver. I said, when you have a certain amount of money in your bank account, so you can grab cash if you need it, because you're going to have to leave a certain amount of your buying power exposed. For a while, I had to keep, a good chunk of it exposed because I needed to grab it so I could pay for my roof to get done. And now I'm looking at purchasing another small pickup, so I have to keep but my excessive savings, I'm going to invest that in tangible assets. So, away we go. Tangible assets, that's what you do. I said, because those costs will go up to match inflation or to better it. So you'll be good to go. These are all concepts you have to sit down on to explain to a boy. Now, although my daughter is very savvy when it comes to investing in the stock market, she was too young to remember how bad it was when last time we were suffering through stagflation. And she really hasn't had to deal with inflation as a major problem in her lifetime. Neither has he. But they're getting a real education right now because they're both starting to complain about prices are going up. And I said, you're goddamn right prices are going up. You don't buy the groceries. You don't pay the bills. I see them. I pay them. So, we're working on that. Anyway, I digress. So he got his account. He's going to start learning about money. I have to lean over his shoulder and make sure that he sticks to the straight and narrow and he does what he's supposed to do. So, I got my fingers crossed. He's a good kid. He's not stupid. And he should do very well with this. And these are just one more thing you're going to have to teach your grandsons, your nephews, your younger cousins, the kid who lives next door to you. Just remember, it's those who do not have a mentor that must be taught critical thinking and reasoned response. It's your job to keep these young men on the straight and narrow and out of trouble, if you so choose to do it. Now, I know it's a popular thing to say, never water another man's seed. But to share knowledge is a good thing. I worked for a company once who had the slogan, unshared knowledge is energy wasted. And they were right. Anyway, thanks for putting up with me. This is Grandpa Red Pill, the curmudgeon of MGTOW. Y'all have a good day.